what happens when you purify your body, your mind, your spirit. Something miraculous. The body begins to heal itself. Welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast, where each week we explore new ways to heal your body from the root, igniting your inner healer. You are the medicine. And now, here's your host, Robin Stebbins.
Hello and welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast. It's me, your host, Robin Stebbins, and today I am here with Tim. Can you please pronounce your last name for me?
Yeah, it's Bui, like a buoy in the water.
I like that. Okay, Tim Bui's here, and we haven't even spoken a word together, but I have a feeling we're aligned, so we're just going to go for it on this podcast. So welcome, Tim Bui, and why don't you announce to our audience who you are, what you stand for, and then we're just going to have an amazing conversation about healing from within.
Sure. And since I'm just being candid and very vulnerable here, did you say, I missed your name?
I love it. And usually it's in that box too, because that's what I rely on. My name is Robin, Medicine Girl Podcast.
Okay, Robin, thank you so much. So I'll just start with what I stand for. I think that's a good place. So I have a really big history or background with meditation and Buddhism. And so like I've just spent a lot of time really thinking about how I fit in the world and what my role is. And then I looked at the book Sapiens, and then I looked at the book A Hunter and Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century. And they just basically gave me this idea that like human beings are our one of our greatest gifts is our ability to collaborate, because if you look out across the animal kingdom, like there's not a lot of animals that collaborate. They have like the killer whales. I don't know if you've seen those like whale pods. They're like super synchronized. Crazy.
They fish together. They rely on each other.
Yeah. And I think like the power of collaboration is like really where it's at for human beings. And I think the thing that gets in the way of that is like a lot of zero-sum game thinking. And so I've just been really thinking about this problem and how I want to be a part of the change and what that will look like. And I think like if you understand like positive sum games, which is like everybody adds something, then basically we can see that like we can create like an indivisible pie, like nobody takes away anything really. We're just all contributing. And I think like with where technology is going right now, and with AI, like the power, the leverage that it gives us, I think like it almost requires for us to like increase our level of cooperation with each other to create the biggest outcomes. So I went from like being like a serial entrepreneur, like selling lots of stuff online. I had 2 e-commerce companies that I built and scaled and I sold. And then I decided I don't want to sell products anymore. I don't want to just like put more stuff out there, because I feel like the reality is like everybody has what they need, probably pretty much for the most part. So I don't really think that like me using marketing to make somebody feel like they need something was where it's at for me anymore. So I just decided embrace. There's like a long story here, but just embrace the side of myself that was like less stoic, less vulnerable, and less sensitive to who I am and to other people. And then I was like, well, this is the path of connection. The path of connection leads to cooperation, safety, vulnerability, collaboration, innovation. And I think like that's pretty much the thing that will allow people to connect. And so I just needed to go on this journey for myself. And I became a coach. Got to lots of trainings, working like subconscious training techniques, timeline empowerment techniques. So just doing a lot of this work on myself, my friends, my community, and I just see my place in this world now as just like a facilitator of this space, this more collaborative space between us all, that we can be positive sum people in this infinite game that we have.
Yeah, I so resonate with that. And I've said for a long time, I don't believe in Darwin's theory of evolution. It's not survival of the fittest, because and just, no matter what your belief system, just look at nature. Like you said, look at the killer whale pods.
Yeah.
They collaborate. Nature collaborates. Go out in the forest and sit for 5 minutes. Everything's collaborating. Even prey and predator will collaborate and be in harmony in certain times. They're not always running and chasing. So I really completely am in alignment with that. And so then the question becomes, there's a lot of us out here, and I think there's a lot of us that woke up in these last 3 years to say, hey, this system is not working. We've never been sicker on this planet. Our children have never been less protected. We have all sorts of issues that it doesn't take a genius to figure out. So then it's like, okay, so what do we do? My feeling has always been, extricate yourself from the system. Don't fight it. Don't try to get different candidates in office. Don't try to do anything in that system, because it is inherently corrupt and ready to just collapse. So then we have, okay, so we create our own system. And then now that's where we are with this conversation then would be, well, what's the first step in creating these collaborative communities that don't turn into the hippy dippy, fizzle out problem type of situation? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I love that question. And it progresses the thinking, and I think that's a process of collaboration, a process of co-creation. I think one of the problems that came up with, I think, as a result of zero-sum games is creating straw men so that we can be right. And I think the opposite of that is steel man. And it's just so we can get the best thing out there. And if we're all collaborating, we're all working on getting the best thing out there. That's we have now the input of 1,000 minds or 100 minds versus one that's just trying to be right and use leverage or social or political power to make it more right. So I think it starts with ourselves, how do we healthily navigate complex relationships that we have with our employers or our mom or our mother-in-law, so there's always those, right? And I think the most power we have, the locus of our control, is in our actions. And I think that scales, it compounds over time and it becomes our character. People recognize that character, and then people say, oh, wow, I admire this about this person. And if they're open enough to say that, they might get something back that's even more than that, some vulnerability, something that's just not in the day-to-day kind of smaller talk or interaction that we have. So I think just that little spark, and it's always that continuous spark of everything that we do. I think it just grows if that's possible. We should just diligent about it, I guess.
Yeah, being diligent. And then the questions that kept coming up are our school system. I don't know what country you're in. You're in the United States?
Yeah, I'm in California right now.
Okay. Excellent. So we're both in California. The school system here is an absolute failure, in my opinion. My son he's a freshman year in high school, public school. He wanted to go back to public school, and they are taught the opposite of everything you just said.
Yeah.
There's one right answer. You have to compete. There's one winner. Don't collaborate. Don't ask your neighbor. It's listen to the teacher, do what you're told. I just call it an open air prison.
Yeah.
And it's kind of getting more and more like that. So what do we do for, us parents that see what we want? I wanted to homeschool him, but there just wasn't enough of, my killer whale pods to help out. It was just us kind of swimming in the sea. So, and I completely understand. So it's okay, you're back in public school, but I still want to raise an enlightened, collaborative human that we all work together. How can we do that?
I love your analogy. odds that got me up right here. Yeah, so I think like from 0 to 7, we're pretty much like unconscious, right? So like we don't question anything, which everything just is, and in that process is like the formation of a personhood, I think. And there's probably a lot of things that we picked up that we never questioned, like whether that was an assumption or whether that was a belief that served us or wasn't a belief that served us even. So I think like we take on a lot of stuff, and then whatever we don't clear out, we just pass down to the next. Just for that 0 to 7. So in the last 3 years, something crazy could have gone on with everybody that was, over the age of 7, and we all had a huge shift. But a lot of those things don't necessarily go. Like some of the old stuff will still go, and some of the pre-existing stuff will still transfer. So, in a large part, like the work that we do to become more cognizant of our relationship with the world, that passes down in like how we take action. And I think, just interactions with other teachers, other students, other parents, like they can see where there's tension and where there's hypocrisy, and then that creates like a little glitch in their system too. And so like when we work out all those glitches like live and they can see it, we lead with the example. And it's not, it's hard, especially as they get older, only because I've been there in freshman year. When you said freshman year, that brought me back. I was like, I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the answer is like the simplest ways, like as we do the work, we lead by example, and that's the best thing that we can do. And we can just give them a place of love that they wouldn't be able to get from anywhere else. And part of that comes from an acceptance of, whoever they are and whatever's coming out, regardless of what we want. And also the other end of that is just like, they're going to look for that everywhere anyways. So we can just give that to them, and in the flavor of what it means to be a great human being. And I think that carries.
Yeah, I love that answer, because that, to me, we always need to reduce everything to the simplest common denominator. It's, if we get too complex and you have to read this book and do this method, and it's just, I think what you said is so powerful. You just have this loving acceptance of this person, and it's almost of a, hey, I want to connect with you. I want to see who you are. I'm interested. I see you. You're worthy enough to be seen. Tell me about you. Not let me drop some knowledge on you, youngsters, and tell you how the world is. Because like you said, we don't know. I'm 54. I've had concentrated ancestral learning of how to be a put your head down prisoner in this system. And so I've had to spend 54 years unprogramming myself.
Wow.
So what I want with these guys, these kids, these 16-year-olds and 15-year-olds is, let's not get you guys programmed. We need you. We need you on this planet. We need your voice. We need your ideas. And now here we are. How do we collaborate and get that generation to wake up without getting boxed in?
So exciting to even think about. And one of the things I love sharing with people that I, work with, and also just anyone I meet, really, is just the power of having a strong vision. And you can have a strong vision in any area of life, or an overall vision. And it works better than I think it was called, this was a vision board. I think like having an internal vision of what you really want, because when you have a really strong internal vision, and maybe you've journaled it or whatever, but it's still an internal vision, you can share that with people, like the essence of that, like with your spouse, your child, or like your friends, your parents, of how you want that relationship to be, and what you see for them, and what you hope that, like with whatever you give, that you receive, and people, when they hear that you have a vision for them, they're very, like, that is like an expression of love, if I've ever heard one. But like, you cared to think about this long enough, and it is an opportunity to co-create that relationship And it's also an opportunity to really hold somebody high and have them hold you high to that vision. And through time, that's the process of that. And I think like spreading that to your children, you know, and sharing what your vision with them, your relationship with them is, regardless of how the world is, like that, you know, you guys have this strong relationship that they can always fall back on. That's not going anywhere. That's just growing. That's super powerful.
Yeah, that is extremely powerful. There's a lot of wisdom in what you said, a lot to unpack. The main thing I like is just you have this idea of co-creating their vision. Like, okay, you're 16. What's your vision for yourself? Let me help facilitate in the way I've seen the world work, but that doesn't mean that's the right answer. And one thing I've noticed, especially with our youth, is a lack of understanding about their bodies, about how their bodies work. I've been a nurse and in the healthcare field for over 35 years. And I've seen an epic failure in the system to do anything but create customers and produce anything in a pill form or vitamin form or supplement form that doesn't create more downstream customers. So our kids are so disconnected from their bodies, if they don't think twice about eating Skittles and Gatorade and, you know, all of the things that I think keep their vibration lower, keep their more of an, I guess, a slave mentality. So it kind of a segue into the, you know, you mentioned you're on a healing journey as well.
Sure.
But, like, how do we start connecting people in with their bodies and their souls and their hearts and their guts and make it so that they become their healer instead of, well, Robin said this and Tim said that, so I'm going to eat this, but they now take their own power back.
Yeah, that's I think that is the most ultimate question, really. That's really like, I mean, I think it comes down to, for me, having a system of discernment, like a network of discernment. Like, I think in each vision that we have in our relationship that we want with somebody and what we want for within, you know, there's from the most high, if you imagine like a pyramid, there's a point, and that point is a point of discernment. So it's like from that vision, you know what's in it and you know what's not in it. And that's what creates clarity in the relationship, but also in the relationship with yourself. So when there's new information that comes in, you don't really need to break it down, like, you know, all the complexity. You just need to know, is it in your vision or is it not? And if you say that it's not, or you say that it isn't, is there a secondary, like, critical voice, or is there some reason why you shouldn't believe what you see right now? And then taking note of what that is and trying to figure out, is that something that's working for you or not working for you? Because I think the more of that we clear out within ourselves, then the more we can be like our true selves all the time and just making quick decisions that are completely aligned with who we are with integrity.
I'm going to have to re-listen to this, because this is all of these nuggets that you have are so good. I'm going to break them down in the show notes too, just to say, okay, this is that point that you made at the pyramid, using the discernment. And when you have that goal, your vision of who you want to be, then it becomes very simple. It's going to McDonald's and eating hamburgers and fries. My vision of this, you know, my son's into bodybuilding. Is that what you think you're going to want to look like, made out of McDonald's hamburgers and fries, or that kind of thing? You know, it's just boom, yes or no.
And they have those crazy videos on YouTube, like, I ate a McDonald's for 100 days and see what happened to me. And it's like, they're crazy videos. So you can use that too.
and I have sent them, and all his friends, they travel in herds, but I've sent, you know, all of them, just, this is what it does to your body. But I find that is, and I have found in my work, telling people the truth is almost like I'm casting spells of negativity.
Putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe in that for sure.
Yeah. So I'm trying to, you know, at least say, okay, here's the information. but put it in a way that's positive. What do you want to fuel your body with? What do you want your skin ultimately
It's the
to
skin.
be?
That's what's going to get them, the pimples.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Like teenage years, pimples. That's it. That's.
I know how to get rid of pimples.
That's a line in the sand.
Exactly. Yeah. You'll look good for the dances, all of that good stuff.
Yes.
But share with me and our audience your healing journey. And I really am curious how you have become so enlightened and awake in your youth.
Oh, it's well, the youth part I always tell people is the sunscreen. I used great, fantastic Hint sunscreen. I'm not sponsored by them, but when you put it on, it's like, it smells like cucumbers. It just feels so great, but it is ridiculously expensive. Anyways, story.
Does it have
It's like all
zinc
natural.
oxide? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's no like synthetic ingredients in it. It's really cool.
That's number one. Yeah.
Sunscreen. That's it. Okay, but the second part, the internal part. I really, like a long time, for a long, long, long time, I grew up depressed, like really depressed. Like, I didn't have a relationship with my parents. They were like really strict and traditional and way like, what is our age gap? Like, I think there's 40 years difference,
Wow,
and like
yeah.
high 40s though. And I'm the youngest. And so they already had other kids before me that they related with. Yeah, I think it was really tough not having an emotional connection with them, not really having their support, to some of these things I'm sharing with you. Not knowing that I could count on them really, because like they were busy with like work, or they weren't emotionally available. They didn't know how to be, they didn't even know it was important. Some of those things that were passed on to them. So yeah, I grew up really depressed because I wasn't really sure which camp I belonged in. I was born in America, I was born in Hawaii. So I am an American, yet I'm going to school and I feel like an outsider. But at home, I'm also an outsider because I'm not truly like culturally raised as a Vietnamese person or a Vietnamese boy at that time. So it was really confusing. It was like the pandemic times a million in my head as a little boy. So I knew that I can only count on myself. That's the feeling I got.
Mm.
And so that's what led me to try to understand my mind. And I was raised in a Buddhist household. So what was available to me was whatever that was, there. But I think if I would have grew up in any household, it would probably be like, I would just use that. But yeah, like I had this crazy out of body experience when I was 12. And I Googled how to meditate, and then I meditated. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I just thought it was just like meditation, like we're just going to be calm. But I had this out of body experience, and literally like so much happened in such a short period of time that I thought it was like 15 minutes, but it was like hours. And then it was just this experience of just vast expansiveness of like, you're not even like your thoughts, you're not even your emotions, you're not even a human being, you're not even any of these things, you're like something else. And it's just this huge experience. And it was largely traumatic for me because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it with. And it was very alienating. And so I had a really dark childhood, basically all the little parts to make it dark. Emotionally abusive father as well, physically abusive as well. There's all these things and all these reasons to say, man, why me? And I did have those reasons for a long time and I held on to them. But like little experiences like these kept stacking up over my years as a youth and into young adulthood. And I knew that there's something more than what we're all experiencing every day. And since I knew that, I also knew that I'm here for a reason. And that's important to the world because I can share whatever that is. And so I feel like I'm just bringing stuff from wherever that space is and just like getting out of its way. And that's, I mean, that's like a very simplified version of, I guess, the story. I mean, I was, I had grown massive amounts of marijuana and sold guns and drugs and had all kinds of craziness in my time. But I think the thing that changed the most for me, or allowed me to change the most, was like having people invest in me, like just people who don't have anything to do with me, who I just meet somewhere, somehow, through somebody, and they just pour love into me and they just invest into me as a human being. And I've had lots of those people. So that's a huge reason that like filled that hole and also showed me how to be and how to share that.
So yeah, you're a little bit lost at sea as well, especially when you don't have that support. And that experience that you had when you were 12, I've had that experience as well. Mine lasted a lot longer, but I so just wanted to know my name as I was coming back into my body. I wanted my ego. I wanted my border barrier separation. It was almost too much for my small self mind to integrate at that time. Now, I mean, it's taken years almost to integrate all of that information. But what it did for me is it completely removed all these labels that we're putting on ourselves. So the label of bi, straight, lesbian, Republican, Democrat, just on and on, vaccinated, unvaccinated. It's not us. The handlers are putting those labels on us, and we are becoming them to then create a hill to die on, a hill to defend. So it's a beautiful experience when those happen. But we have, like you said, it's a collaborative experience. It's would be so much better if it was a group of us saying, okay, this happened, and let's integrate that knowledge. But it sounds like that's what is ultimately led to this healing journey, and for you to uncover the energetic being that you are, not just this, skin and bone, and this is your name, this is where you grew up, and this is what happened to you. But ultimately, you're an energetic being, starting to understand your power, your potential, what you're here on this planet, what gifts you're here to share with us.
Yeah, totally. You got it.
Yeah. So in that, what keeps, I keep wondering if you've read the Anastasia books, Ringing Cedars.
I don't think I've heard of it.
Yeah. They're very expensive now. Somebody just gave me this book a long time ago, and it seemed cheesy, and I kind of read through it a little bit, but it's about this woman in Siberia that lives as one with the land. And what she had, and she kind of gives advice, whether she's a real person or not, it doesn't really matter, but her way of viewing the world and way of viewing people. So you versus me, we're equals, not because I'm this age and you're that age, but we would be viewed as equal wisdom, because you're a completely different energetic being. And then that's when it would be a lot more easy to collaborate. A child is seen as the same amount of wisdom as well. So we don't need to put our education on top of them so that they then create our, another box that we've created for ourselves. So I guess where I'm going with that is in this wisdom, it's your innate wisdom. So Tim, you would only be the one to know how to heal you. You don't go to, the old collapsing system, I believe, is you would go to the psychiatrist, like, hey, I'm in a really dark spot. And then I feel, because I used to work mental health as well, that they would make it worse. It's like, yeah, you are in a really dark spot. And, oh, tell me more about the trauma, and tell me more about the abuse, and tell me, so it's, then we become that experience instead of going like, wow, that was a gift. because I now know how to rise and live above that without becoming that experience, so that I can relate to you. I can understand, like, yeah, I was in an abusive family as well. I became that abuse for a long time as a victim story, and then was able to release, okay, that's a story. Oh, okay. All of these are just stories. These are collections of stories that have meaning or not meaning. We get to assign meaning based
Some you like more, some you don't like as much.
Yes, that's exactly it. And so I bring up the Anastasia because that was when you are one with your energetic being, your energetic body, then you know how to heal your body. And then you can start to relate to other people and not point to, here's my version of how to heal yourself. It's the body heals itself. We have no idea how it does it, nor, I believe, will we ever know what is actually going on inside our bodies. We don't even know really what we're made of. Cells, maybe it's just an what is it? A artifact from viewing the cell culture under an electron microscope that's stained and heated, et cetera, et cetera. So back to you. When you're talking about lighting your soul up and connecting, as you've now seen yourself as an energetic being, what would you recommend to people as they start? Like, I know a lot of people relate to what you've said. Like, how do you start that healing journey so that you're not then the story, you're the storyteller?
Yeah, I love how you put so many of those things that are so clutch. I'm going also to have to listen to this again. Like you said, there's no prescription. I think, one of the most unfortunate things is we don't know what to do with schizophrenic people. So, like in the example that you said, like, what do? You just show up, like, I'm having these thoughts. Okay, take these pills for the rest of your life. Well, I don't know, exactly what's going on, and you don't either. So why should I? And then they have these episodes like, well, what's real? What's not? You're not real. If these things aren't real, then you're equally not as real. And the process is figuring out what's real. So you have so many voices in your head. And like I said, like I think when you pray, you're honing in on a certain voice, a certain frequency, a part of yourself that is so humble, that is so like ready to receive, to surrender. And I don't know, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but you just have that experience. And there's a frequency, I think, for many things within ourselves. And I think there's a frequency for inquiry, and through inquiry is understanding and awareness. And through understanding and awareness, you begin to be able to get to the root cause of what's going on. And I think training ourselves to do that, because that is one of those things that, the 0 through 7 thing, I think we can naturally impart. But by the time you have a child, like, you're not, like, that timeline doesn't usually match up. And so it is, I think, the most important thing we can do, because it does create little viruses of like light, of like love, that go into other people and like, wow, well, that was a different experience. Like, what was different about this person, or like this experience, or what they said? And that can start them on a journey of like, oh, maybe I want to learn more about communication or something. So it's like, we don't know what we're going to do with the spark that we give. But if it's in the flavor of like just this pure love, like, I don't have any expectations, and I'm just being me, and this is love, like, that is inspiring to a level that I think there is no containing. But to answer your question more specifically, I would say that if you want there to be a case where you don't have to look outside of anybody to know to heal yourself, then the most basic thing is just learning what your body's telling you. And there's like things that you can do like as body tests, right? So like, like, yes means I fall forward, no means I fall back. How do I feel about this thing? Am I over this person? Whatever. There's like this other finger check, right? Or like, you like make a circle and then you try to break it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me, but like the other one does. So there's different ways that we can kind of tap into maybe a deeper, more primal part of ourselves that doesn't judge ourselves, or maybe wanting something that seems like a fetish or something that seems shameful or whatever. It's just like, do I want this or not? And I think the other half of that part is like the critical voices of doubt and limitation, and understanding where those come from. So we can be like, oh, hey, like, oh, you sound familiar. That's like my mom, and you do say that to me. And so when you can say, oh, that's what it is, that's not me, that's just kind of what that is, it kind of just loses its power, starts going away. So just really starting to understand like what that critical part of you comes from, because it's not really you, I don't think. So I think that's the journey.
Absolutely. A lot that you said in there again, and it's the pyramid of discernment. You know, when we're going through that healing phase, we can do the muscle testing, and that doesn't work for me either. But it's more, it's like, what works for you? Only you will be able to tell that. And so,
Yes.
you know, we're such a nation of parrots. We like to look at this meme and then become the expert and say, hey, now this is what you need to do. Muscle test, or do, you know, does your body rock forward? Does it rock back? Yeah. So we're all just re-educating each other on just more and more of like the bottom of the pyramid, the lower vibration of, hey, I'm the expert here, and I'm gonna break it down for you. Instead of, is this in alignment with my vision for myself? Is this a piece of where I want to go? Is this part of my healing? Is this, you know, this emotional connection, a lower vibration from programming or emotional abuse or physical abuse, that type of thing? So then you bring in that unconditional love for yourself, the unconditional forgiveness for your health, for yourself. And then I think it starts to, you know, radiate that same emotion to others, that then they can see that, okay, I can give myself permission. Tim did it. I see how he's operating. I like his energy. I'm gonna give myself whatever I see he has, but it's not his brand. It's now I'm going to create it for myself, so that, you know, we're not always having to rely on somebody else or the teacher or the guru. Or I tend to really shy away from that, because I think it's gotten us into a pretty big pickle on this planet.
It's the whole thing, though, you know, the white jacket thing, right? Like, you're a doctor, I listen to you, or, you know, so I think that whole hierarchy of things is set up so you can institutionalize ideas and make, you know, certain figures complete scientific
Star that one,
valid truth and irrefutable. So I mean, like, that is what it's for. And so let's not perpetuate that. Like, there is something I believe in, like the human operating system, which is like the level of consciousness where, like, what is the most basic constituents of first principle knowledge that you can have, that you can filter, so you can turn like random experiences in your life into wisdom. And I think how you do that is like having that layer of discernment, that you can, through each of these principles that you understand about yourself, everything becomes a principle. All insights, all awareness, all knowledge becomes insights. And if you like hold that, like, this is what I know is true, not what anybody else out there is telling me, but like, these experiences that I've had are true. I also know like logical fallacies and all this other stuff, but this is my experience and this is what I know to be true. Let me filter this through what I want to create, through what I know, and then let me check what the results are. I'm not attached to if it's yes, it's great, and you're spectacular, you're Caesar, Julius Caesar, or whatever, or you're just some guy, and some guy is not better or worse than Julius Caesar either. It's just like whatever, you're just totally like agnostic about the results and just going after the truth and the vision.
That's it. And I really want to put an emphasis on what you said. You know, when you go into the white coats, they do tend to pathologize, because that, I mean, look at what their motivation is. Always consider the motivation. You know, you're a customer to them. And so I really like to look at the field, including all of these studies, because all I hear, a lot of podcasters will repeat this study and that statistic and this.
It's like the same ones.
And it's usually the same ones.
From the same person.
And they're all pharmaceutical funded, or they're all funded by someone with an intention of keeping you small, keeping you away from your wisdom, keeping you away from your heart, from your innate ability to figure out all of this on your own. With that, what you had mentioned and kind of threading through the whole podcast is with a pod, with your tribe, with your people that support you, that don't say like, wow, Tim, everything you said is wonderful. It's, hey, let's have a discussion about this. This is what I understand. This is what I don't understand. This is what I agree with. This is what I don't. So that we can then raise that level of understanding collectively.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
The power of the pod. That's the episode.
Power of the pod. That's probably the name of this podcast. We'll have a bunch of killer whales on the show art. But the other thing I want to point out too is I think when we're delving into that system, it is so ingrained in each one of us to usurp our wisdom to these white coat gods. We treat them as false gods, and then or we're given high IQ numbers. I call it indoctrination quotient, not intelligence quotient, because what I have seen people that have these high IQs, you can just stick a peer-reviewed double-blind study in front of them from Mayo Clinic or Cleveland. It doesn't matter if it's prestigious. They will not have any level of discernment. It's gospel. It's
yeah.
So they're easily programmed. I would just have to do, like, how easy would it be for me to then sway your decisions? How easy then is it for me to promote vitamin D3 cholecalciferol rat poison because I read a study that said it was good for you, and not just a little bit, mega doses? You see the difference? Like now I'm giving you poison and believing in it because of all of that background indoctrination. So again, back to give me 3 ways that you center back to listening, being able to hear your voice, your wisdom, your intuition.
Yeah, I think I'll start with the preface that my way is probably going to be very different from everybody else's way, because we just have to figure out what our way is. So when I look at, I think like the most useful example is like in an ordinary situation with my parents. Say, for instance, I had a really rough relationship with them, as I've shared with you. And so I think like, when we look at our family relationships, that's kind of the best mark of like how unconditioned you are, because Christmas comes every year, and no matter how spiritual you think you are, Christmas dinner is always Christmas dinner with your family. So I don't just mean to put that out there as a block, because I think it's just an interesting idea, and it's just an idea that our level of conditioning is louder than our inner voice, and our level of conditioning is also telling us not to listen to the inner voice. And it like to what you say, it weaponizes intellectualism and demonizes like listening to your feelings, or even understanding them, or like knowing yourself. So,
well, it's almost shaming you when they'll say, oh, that's anecdotal evidence. Because it's like, well, don't believe what your eyes see. Are you going to believe me or your lying eyes?
Yeah.
Classic narcissist way of dealing with it. So it's always, all of this since the time I was born is separating you from your intuition, which is our superpowers.
Yes. And it's different. It takes different form in everybody. That's what I believe. Yes. Like I believe that once we do become clear, like we do all have different superpowers, and they're always different for everybody. And it's very like idiosyncratic. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So again, there would be no competition because there is no one else like me. It's like 2 snowflakes, completely different, competing against each other. Like, where do you even start?
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
can't compete each other because you're unique.
There's no point. Don't even start. It's not a worry about.
Yeah. And so instead, like, let's, collaborate all the different snowflakes. What's your superpower? What's yours? And that's why I asked you, what are 3 ways you get back to that voice? Because I think what you had said earlier is it gives us that spark. It gives us a spark to say, oh, that's what Tim does. Oh, that's what Robin does. This is what I remember doing, going into the forest and putting my hand on the tree and getting this, that kind of thing. It sparks that within you. So that, again, we're not creating another tier in the pyramid of gurus and people that have the answers. Let's go up there to get the answers. No, you have them.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think so. Yes. So I think it's looking at these family problems that we have. So like me looking at my situation with my parents shows me basically the farthest back that I'll revert or regress to emotionally. And when I see that, then that means I have that much more to go. Where I can find anybody in any type of trigger, any type of interaction, we are all mirrors of basically our own projections. Because like we have an experience, and that experience colors or filters the reality that we see in a certain way. That, like we say, like we like this story about ourselves and we don't like these stories about ourselves. So the collective of stories that we like about ourselves, that is ourself. And then all the other things are not, that lies in the shame category. That lies in the things that we project onto other people. And so now we're a collection of all these things that aren't that, but we're also scared of those things. And so when we just put it out there, that's just a sign that it's going to come back to us. And however it comes back is the sign of what we have or what we get to work on, like what direction is that. So as simple as like, say my personal example is like my mom. I could say she's very emotionally manipulative. I could say she was guilty of what I would call parentification, if that's a word. I think that is a word. And so, I can hold these things against her, but like also, because I believe these things from such a long time ago, it gives me no chance to see things a different way. And so when I have certain interactions and she's like calling my name, just calling my name from across the house, and it's like, oh, she's trying to manipulate me to get me to respond to her. And I'm like, whoa, wait. So like, it's just having these types of deep moments of conditioning where we're being triggered. These are the golden nuggets that actually yield the truth about ourselves, regardless of what our filters are. If we look at that, that's the result of our life. And, it goes back to hurt people, and heal people. So when we go in our life and we look outside and we see that there's a lot of conflict, like there's a relationship with that conflict, and that's us. And so like the quality of our relationships in our life is a reflection of the quality of who we are and who we've become through these learning from these gems, these nuggets of triggers or like difficult experiences. So within the difficult experience or the obstacle is the way of growth.
Brilliant. And it's not personal. And that's when, yeah, when you can say, okay, she's just calling my name, or even if it is on purpose, it's like, where do I begin and end here? This is her programming. I don't know what it feels like to walk a mile in her shoes. It's biofeedback. If we can just see it as simple biofeedback. Oh, I got triggered again just because she called my name. Let me investigate that, not shame myself because like, oh my gosh, Robin, you're still back in this whole dynamic with your mom. It's like, no, I got upset. What wounded part of me is trying to be released out of my body? I really believe like every wounding is showing itself because it wants out. It doesn't want to keep festering around in there, ruminating.
No, it wants out. You're right.
It wants out.
There's pressure. There's pressure behind that. Earlier you said something and it's like triggered a thought, but I lost it momentarily. But it's not twice the same thought. So
maybe they're not personal, the biofeedback.
Oh, biofeedback. Have you heard of biofeedback breathing? We want to talk about like practitioner level things. Biofeedback breathing. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, so there's this doctor. Her name is Dr. Leah. Starts with an L. I'll think about it in a second. Leah Lagos. Yeah, she's a doctor of psychiatry, I believe. I think she has a psychiatry. Yeah, I think that's probably right. Anyways, so she works with all kinds of people, high performance, we call them, Olympians to investment bankers, everything, athletes. And her work is in, there's something called, I'm not an expert in this. It's been a while since I got but this is heart rate variability breathing. And there's a relationship between your inhale and your exhale with your parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system. And so there's a certain way that you can breathe. For most people, it's 4 breaths of inhale and 6 breaths, seconds of exhale. And so doing this for 20 minutes a day is actually what I'm not going to say this is going to work for everybody, but after doing it for 3 weeks, I had this huge emotional release that created a ginormous shift in my life. And this is part of like that small part of that story that I was telling you like way back in the beginning of this call and this podcast. And now is this type of breathing is like only the type of breathing and rate that we do when we're safe. And so like in the space of safety, all these things can come. And if we feel like we're safe, we can handle it. And there's a lot we can handle that we don't think we can. But being in that safe place allows us to know within our bodies. And so breathing is huge. There's just so many modalities in breath itself. I use breath work almost literally my commitment is to use it every day. Basically, like before I go on a podcast or go on a call or go on a class or, interact, have a transition of any sort, I ask myself, like, what is the intention? What do I want to experience emotionally and what do I want to put out there? And then I check my energy level, like, quantitatively. 1 is I'm falling asleep at the wheel, and 10 is I'm ready to like run through the next wall next to me. And so if I'm anywhere below a 6, I commit to doing breath work. And so that's just my commitment that I do to myself so I can show up and get the experiences and come shine the way I want to be. And so breath work is ginormous and it's always available. So I think practitioner level, that's it. And you can look that up with Dr. Biohacker.
And there's millions of different forms of breath work, and so keep going. It's one of the most transformational exercises I've done. I started with just Wim Hof and learning how to just hold my breath and longer periods, and getting into that that moment of I didn't need to breathe. It became a choice. I never thought I would be that person. I could barely hold my breath for 30 seconds when I started. And it builds on itself. And again, like you said, you can do breath work anywhere. It's free. And there's so many different forms of it. And I'll have the link to the Dr. Lagos breath work in the show notes too, so people can check that out. And I'll definitely check that out. So in closing, what is summing everything up, you gave us so many brilliant bits of information. What's one thing someone can do today, right now, if they're inspired with your podcast, to be able to find you, to be able to connect with you? How can we find you and get more of this brilliance?
I think the easiest way is on Instagram. I do have a website, but it's like dodgy. It's not great right now. So we'll share the website. But Instagram is great. It has a link tree and it says how you can work with me if you want to work with me, or it gives you links to free resources that I have. I have a quiz on my website, or 6 quizzes, depending on like what area of life that you want to work in. And it just kind of helps you reveal your highest value and certainly a list of values that you have. And I say, like, if I know like your value system and I also know your limiting beliefs, I can say like pretty confidently how far in your vision you're going to go before something happens. And so between that and having a vision, like those are 2 most powerful things that I hope everybody that listens to the show takes away of everything, is like have a vision for yourself and understand what your values are. But yeah, definitely you can reach me on Instagram. Feel free to message me. I'm super, I don't keep notifications on my phone, so I check them when I check them, but I'm like 100% attentive when I do so.
I love that. And that's another thing that I'm trying to do more of, is just be in the moment, be present. I'll check it when I check it, but when I engage with you, you have 100% of me. And I really value that, in human connections right now, more than anything.
Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah.
Over the Zoom.
Over a Zoom, like we can connect and we can raise each other's vibration. We can support each other. And I really want to emphasize too what you said. Fear is loud. That voice that you're hearing that's just yelling, it's fear. It's not you. that underlying voice, that quiet voice, your soul's voice is quiet. It's not forcing anything. So that's where this breath work comes in. That's where everything that you're promoting gets you to where you can then hear your voice, that voice of your soul, that then, wow, once you connect with that voice, it's magnificent. I'm sure you'll agree with that. So
yeah, totally. I 100%. I love what you're saying. Just like, oh man, it's just all truth. Keep spilling the beans.
we got this, and it's collaboration. It's not like, oh, here I am dropping all this wonderful knowledge. It's we're sharing this experience, creating this frequency, and like these ideas are coming through me.
We're enriching each other and we're inspiring each other. I'm really inspired by our conversation, 100%. So, yeah.
And that's what I want to keep doing. And that's that I believe what you have started this conversation with, and where we can go is we can create all of these communities of collaboration. And we don't actually have to know what they look like. We can just say, this is the vision for myself. What's your vision for yourself? And then can we collaborate on it?
Yeah.
Get a pod. Well, thank you so much for this.
Is that subliminal for podcast? I'm just kidding.
The pod. Tim puts the pod in podcast.
Hilarious.
And then like a little musical.
Oh my gosh. You're so good at this.
Commercial, like, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for lighting up this hour, for inspiring me. I'm going to work on, my son just walked in the door. I'm going to work on a vision board with him to say, hey, let's do a vision board, you guys. Let's collectively do a vision board. I'll get all the things everybody's
excited about. Just
see what everybody's vision is for their life.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Please tell me how that goes.
I will do that. Thank you again, Tim. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.